Hey witches, how you doing today? We've got a video for you on veiling in witchcraft. My hot take and how that had to change. Yeah, I had to have a change of opinion. So, for those of you who are new around here, my name's Taya. Welcome to the channel. We talk about all things witchcraft. And for those of you who are returning viewers, maybe coming in from another video, thank you so much for your support. It's most appreciated. All of you, please consider subscribing. It's a great way to help us build the channel. So veiling in witchcraft. This initially came about, this video, because I was watching the TikTok, the witch talk in particular, and a little while ago there was a whole series kind of going around where everybody was talking about how they veil. And I was like, oh my god. I was like, really, like a whole another trend, guys, like come on, like get over yourselves, this is ridiculous. And then I thought, you know, I'm a grown-ass woman, let's do some research. So to say that I wasn't impressed initially with this whole concept of veiling in witchcraft is an understatement. But I did some research. Here's what I found. So veiling is the act of covering your head with a veil or a swath of fabric. It could be like a scarf, like a veil, or a scarf, or a wrap, or a hat of some sort. And people do it for lots of different reasons. So the first one is to like cover their crown chakra for like energetic protection, right? You'll see a lot of people say they just want to protect that chakra. Sometimes it's because you want to keep your energies to yourself, or maybe you don't want your energies projecting out onto other people. To prevent overstimulation. So if you think about your head, of your 5 senses, 4 of them are located in your head. It's a sensory hotspot. And so sometimes people like to, you know, avoid that overstimulation and veil. Sometimes it's a calling from deity. So Hestia is one of the deities who's known to reach out to her followers, to her devotees, and say, I want you to veil. Sometimes it's a cultural belief that energy gets trapped in your hair. I've heard it said that, like when you wash your hair, you feel so good because you've cleansed out all that energy. So people cover their hair to avoid picking up all those errant energies. Sometimes it's a sign of respect for yourself or for your deities. So it might not be called by deity to do it, but you choose to do it to be respectful to your deity or to show your piousness. And again, as a sign of respect to yourself or a sign of modesty, there's that way. Sometimes people do it for distinction, to set themselves apart from other people, right? It kind of creates a physical barrier that sets you apart from other people. And some people do it for empowerment. They get a real sense of reverence and respect when they veil. So there's lots of different reasons why people veil. There's a lot of cultures, both current and historic, around the world that practice veiling. I think when we think historically, it's kind of easy to think of examples where, you know, when a woman marries, she starts to cover her hair, or like you think of the ancient Greeks, I think they covered, but a lot of like ancient cultures, right, where women would ritually cover their hair. It was part of their cultural traditions. But currently, modern times, there's lots of different cultures that do it. I think a common one, right, that we all think of first is Islam. Muslim women cover their hair. You think of the hijab. Catholic nuns, right? In Christianity, there's veiling. Catholic nuns veil. Yoruba initiates veil. And Jewish women veil. I believe it's when they get married, they start covering their hair. And some of them will cover their hair with a veil. Some of them will use a wig. But again, they veil. And there's so many Middle Eastern and African cultures that veil for religious reasons, for more cultural reasons, for some of them, like they live in desert environments and they need to, you know, cover it for cleanliness. There's lots of different reasons why people veil, or different cultures. On that note, that there are so many different cultures that veil, some of those are closed practices. So do your research on the style of veil that you're choosing, should you choose to veil. Some styles are sacred and should not be used unless you're a part of that religion or cultural tradition. I think a really easy one to point out would be like a Catholic nun's habit. You're not gonna, you know, that's disrespectful. You're not gonna walk around with a nun's habit on. Well, it's the same idea with a lot of other cultures as well, right? We need to be respectful. So I can't advise a whole lot on the cultural appropriation side of it, because I've always chosen to veil in a very casual style with a bandana or a toque. What? I'm sitting here saying I think this is ridiculous, but then I did my research and I realized that I have been unintentionally veiling since I was in high school. I had no idea I was doing it. I am a toque and bandana girl. This is one of my old bandanas. I lived in this when I was in university. And my toque, you guys have seen my toque many times in videos. I live in this toque, summer, winter, you name it. And especially, I find recent years it's more the toque. I don't tend to wear the bandana so much. It's my toque. And I've always just said, I'm a Canadian girl. I wear a toque, whatever, right? I used to go down to some very big company conferences, big, rah-rah, 3,500 women in a room conferences. And I'd wear my toque all the time. And people would sort of make fun of me about like, hey, we're in Florida. Why are you wearing a toque? And I'm like, because I'm Canadian. Turns out it's, well, partly because I'm Canadian. The toque becomes my veil of choice. But it turns out it's that overstimulation part that I'm trying to avoid. What happens is when I put my toque on, it's like a cocoon around my head, and it has to cover my ears and it has to cover my forehead. Same thing with the bandana. It has to cover my forehead, and now with the toque, it has to cover my ears. And it creates this little cocoon. And it's funny, I find if I'm just cold and I put on a toque, I then have a very difficult time taking it off. So if I put on a toque, I tend to leave it on for the whole entire day. Because what happens is, it's like when you put in earplugs. Say you're like, oh, my earplugs are, I'm just going to put them in for no reason. And you wear them for a couple hours, and then you take them out. What do you notice? It's loud. You notice all the sounds. Well, I notice that if I take my toque off, now all of a sudden I notice all the external stimulation coming at me. So I tend to leave the toque on even if it wasn't originally put on for that purpose. So basically, late in life, in my mid-30s, I was diagnosed with ADHD and generalized anxiety disorder. I am very sensitive to external stimulation. Basically, the way my brain works is I can't block it out. So as other people, like I'm sitting here talking to you, I can hear every little sound coming from the other room, and I know it won't pick it up on camera, but I can hear the microwave going, and I can hear my son clicking away at his computer game, and my brain doesn't filter out those background noises like other people's does. So when I put that toque on, it helps, I find, with the ears, because it covers my ears. It sort of reduces a bit of that background noise. And I don't know why, but it has to cover my forehead. Now, part of it is I've got like a 5 head. I've got a really big forehead. So I don't like, wearing a bandana back here because that just shows off my forehead. But I find, it needs to come down to my eyebrows. And I think that's a little bit of that energy sensitivity with your third eye and your chakra being right there at the top of your head. So yeah, it turns out that here I am kind of in my head making fun of all these girls for veiling when it is absolutely something that I have done my whole life through with my toque. So yeah, that's our video today. Do you veil? What are your experiences with veiling? I'd love to know. What do you think about it? Go ahead, leave us a comment. And otherwise, yeah, we'll catch you in the next one.